Serious? What's the creepiest, scariest thing that you've seen but no one believes you? I was out with my friends and came home pretty late. I didn't want my parents asking questions, so I snuck in through the garage. The door was locked but I had a key. I turned the key to unlock it, but then I heard an abrupt snap and the door locked again. I repeated this 3 times. Each time I unlocked the door relocked. Exasperated, I cried out, "Mom, it's me." Then I heard the door unlock. I opened the door and no one was there. I was 15 years old, was in LA for a convention and Disneyland trip. There was a large group of us. My best friend and I were sitting next to each other on the bus. As we're driving from the airport, both my friend and I watched 2 people exit this house on the corner. One starts to run, and the other pulls a pistol out and shoots him down. Then shoots him again. We both looked at each other thinking, holy shit. We told some adults on the trip and they told us we hadn't seen that and it never happened. Update. It was the 16th of February, 2005. Our flight left at 3 something in the morning, the flight not being long from Northern California. When we got on the bus, big like a greyhound, from the airport, everyone fell asleep. It was still dark out. My best friend and I weren't tired. The gunshots weren't loud. I grew up around guns. The 2 adults we told were not our parents, but chaperones. They acted like we were crazy, but we know what we saw. To this day I feel like they were dumb adults. No iPhones. We took all our pictures for the trip on disposable cameras and Nikons. We were headed to the LA Religious Education Congress Youth Day. We weren't religious, but went for the Disneyland trip. We got to miss school and go to Disneyland. It seemed worth sitting through a day of stuff we had no attachment to. I have since researched murders throughout the area and haven't found a thing. About a year ago I was up watching movies late at night when I got hungry and went downstairs for a snack. My room is across from my daughter's room and her door was open. As I was coming back upstairs I start turning left towards my room when I hear, clear as ever, "Daddy, can you close the door?" I turn around. Don't say much and just close it. Once I'm back in my room, I lie down to watch TV when it hits me. My daughter isn't there. She's spending the night at my parents'. I get up and go to her room and sure enough, it's empty. I woke up my wife and she thinks I'm crazy. Says I was probably tired and maybe it was the TV. I remember the voice so clear and coming in the direction of her room. It's very possible that it was just my head playing games, but it definitely made me question a few things. I worked at a small gas station in my small town when I was in my late teens. I was stocking sodas around back in the storage room. A man startled me, then apologized. He asked me for directions to Washington, D.C. I gave him the best directions I could. I sent him toward Philadelphia. He thanked me and went to his car. There was a kid about my age sitting in the passenger's seat. He gave me the most evil stare I've ever seen. They pulled off and I forgot about it and got back to work. I remember watching the news sometime later when they arrested the DC snipers. It was them for sure. Sent chills through my spine. I'm glad they spared me. I've only told a few people because I'm afraid people won't believe me. It still makes me feel a bit uncomfortable when I think about it. My teacher in high school told me he got a ride from John Wayne Gacy when he was a kid. My teacher and his friend were hitchhiking and dude pulled up butt-ass naked. They thought it was weird but they needed a ride because they were ditching school. He drove right past their exit and the next one, so my teacher and his friend started attacking him and he let them out. Years later when he was on the news my teacher recognized him instantly. When I was about 12 or 13 I woke up in the middle of the night and smelled my father's cologne. Thought it was a little odd since he lived about an hour away but was too tired to care. Went back to sleep. Woke up the next morning and for some reason my mother didn't wake me up for school. My father had passed away the night before. Never told anyone for years about that night, but around the age of 23 I told my mom. She was glad to know that she wasn't crazy. That same night she got startled awake, and the dog was staring at the door wagging his tail, almost like he was saying goodbye before fully leaving. When I was 9 my father passed away and said goodbye to me in his own manner as well. Woke up randomly in the middle of the night to see him sitting at the end of my bed. He had died just 4 days prior. He didn't say a thing, just reached out and put his hand on my leg in a comforting manner. I screamed and left the room crying because it scared me quite badly. but I remember it as clear as if it had happened yesterday. Over the years I've come to terms with the fact that he was saying goodbye and feel much more at peace with his sudden death. I was dozing on the couch at my parents' place last year, not comfortably because I was cold. Then I felt a wave of heat pass over me, which was pleasant enough until I felt these firm, pointed fingertips on my head, like something was standing behind me with its hands on my scalp. I was frightened but then grabbed them and threw them off me. A few minutes later my mum came in and said she heard a door open and had got the feeling she should check on me. Probably a dream, but it was super creepy. Sounds to me like hallucinations during sleep paralysis. Although I don't know how to explain your mum's part. Sleep paralysis is definitely creepy. I used to get them a lot in my teens when I slept on my back. I'm a side sleeper. The weight upon my chest would be just enough weight to wake me in a paralysis state. I would consistently have them almost every day at one point. One day I woke, which for those of us who knows the feeling of 1,000 pounds on our chest and unable to move, and watched my bedroom door slowly open like someone was peeping in on me. I wanted to cry for help thinking someone was coming in, but rather than seeing a person I watched this really creepy black silhouette of a person instead. It watched me for a good minute, then it closed the door. I then fell asleep. It turns out that silhouette was my brother trying to wake me up. I did some research and concluded that maybe the part of our brain that recognizes facial features was probably inactive and in sleep mode, which was the reason why I saw a blank face. I still remember the vivid image of a no-faced man staring at me till this day. I'm with you on the black silhouette and sleep paralysis, but my parents had never checked on me during those times. The silhouette stood in the left corner of my room, furthest from my bed. I'm glad that doesn't happen anymore. Best way to describe the feeling would be impending doom. Edit. A letter. Mobile comment. I was 6 and remember playing in my room and my grandpa walks in and talks to me for a few minutes. After a bit he gets up and tells me to be a good girl for mom, kisses me on the forehead, and walks out. Mom comes in about 5 minutes later hysterical and told me my grandpa had died overnight and we had to leave to go be with the family 2 states over where he lived. Used to live in a 2-story house with 5 dudes. The upstairs had a kitchen with a sliding glass door going out to the deck. The downstairs had a family room with one of those enclosed staircases that turned at the bottom so you couldn't see the person coming down until the last 4 steps. One day I was playing SNES with one of the guys and we were the only 2 home. Heard the sliding glass door open and slam shut, then very loud and very fast footsteps pounding down the stairs, then suddenly nothing. But nobody came down. We both looked at each other like WTF was that? I called out the name of my BF since it was close to the time he comes home from work, but total silence. The 2 of us slowly crept upstairs to find the slider was locked and nobody else was home. We noped the fuck outside to chain smoke cigarettes until my BF came home 20 minutes later. None of our roommates my BF ever believed us, but that was hands down the freakiest shit I've ever experienced, and I wasn't alone, so I knew I wasn't crazy. Thump 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 coming at us like the goddamn exorcist down the stairs. Edit. A lot of people have said this was a burglar, which is possible, but my car was in the driveway where the yard and deck slider were located. It was also 3 p.m-ish in a decent neighborhood, with our neighbor having a big nosy dog in the next yard that barked at everything. Not an ideal house to rob, but I could be wrong, as this seems like the most logical explanation. It also was not a townhome or connected to the neighbors at all. Just a 2-story single family home built in maybe the 60s or 70s with a big yard around the entire property. I still live in the area, and whenever I've driven past the house it gives me bad juju tingles and it feels like someone is watching me from the big picture window in front. Yes, I know cigarettes are bad and I haven't smoked for 17 years. Thank you moms. I had a similar experience. My family and I were sat at the dining table waiting for my dad to come down the stairs to eat. I heard his door shut upstairs, and the sound of his heavy footsteps come down the stairs. Thunk 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 thunk. Just as he should have entered the door to the dining room. My brother and I both turned our heads to greet him as he came in the room, but he didn't appear. We looked at each other like WTF. Then, a couple minutes later, our dad came down the stairs and came in the room. IDK if this was a glitch in the matrix or what, but I'm so glad my brother heard it too. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more content.